Welcome to Grounding Ascension, where we explore topics around activating and integrating our I am presence, coming back to our true selves. I am your host, Celeste Glus. Aloha, friends, and welcome back. I'm excited to share with you this information that's coming in at this time. And I think it's such a great opportunity to share it with you because of everything that has been happening so far in our collective. So, as you're very well aware, there's a lot of transformation and a lot of acceleration of our choices, meaning a lot of the things that we are choosing and thinking are happening very quickly, almost so quick that it's hard to keep up with. So that actually means that we are becoming more powerful and stronger as co-creators. Anyway, coming back to the point of this podcast, I want to share with you what has been coming in strongly for me, which is the connection between the Divine Feminine, Lemuria, and the co-creation or the creation of this new earth or the new realities or basically your life right now. So just making it very clear that the whole notion of new earth and new realities, it's all happening now and you're already living it. It's literally the difference between a decision, a frequency, and an intention. So, making it as grounded and practical as possible, I'd like to share with you some of the connections that are coming through for me. And I think it's going to help you really understand and realize how important it is that we stay grounded and true and integral at this time with whatever it is that we believe in, however we feel in our bodies, and most specifically, what we genuinely desire to create and to live. So if you missed the free webinar on finding out your true desire and pleasure, go ahead and check that out. It's a great starting point to get clear and integral about what is behind your intentions, behind your desires. So when we talk about creating the new earth or the new realities or your life, it's very important because of the time that we are living in that we consider what's actually driving us. What is our desire being driven by? Is it by something that somebody else told us would give us satisfaction? Is it driven by an old belief system that we inherited? Is it driven by something that we've heard in the news or on YouTube, right? Social media, these are huge points of reflection for us because when we are driven by external forces that are not aligned and integral to our soul, those things that we create will actually not give us true satisfaction and pleasure. And this is why so many of us are walking around feeling very disconnected, and we can quote unquote manifest things. But when we do, we don't end up feeling as fulfilled and full, right, as we expected it or as somebody else told us. Or maybe it's just simply not sustainable. Whatever we manifested is not something that is sustainable for ourselves or for the world or for the family around us, the community. So what does this all have to do with the connection between the Divine Feminine and Lemuria and creation? Well, Lemuria has always been referred to as this ancient civilization that was very connected to the Divine Feminine. If you read my book, you would know that I don't see it that way. My memories and experiences with Lemuria were in reference to a state of consciousness that was purely crystalline and unity consciousness based. Meaning there was such a balance between divine feminine and divine masculine that the concept didn't even exist. There was no need to pinpoint divine feminine and divine masculine because they were completely merged and unified as one. Now, through time, it did end up becoming distorted. And I think when we look at Lemuria with a set of eyes comparing it to Atlantis, we automatically put it into this box of divine feminine. Now, I do have to say that what has come through, most specifically recently as I dive deeper with the divine feminine work and the mysteries of the divine feminine, is that Lemuria held a very powerful component of creation, what we call the blueprints or the templates of that civilization, of the beings that were there at that time. It held the templates of pure crystalline co-creative abilities, meaning that all creations were in alignment to the cosmic universal law and God source consciousness. Now, that inherently implies that there is a strong foundation and understanding of the divine feminine, even if they didn't use those words. So I hope that's becoming sort of clear for you that Lemuria, although I don't see it as a feminine society, because it was so integrated between the divine feminine and masculine, its creations were automatically sort of entrained or holographically projected from a place of divine union, which inherently holds the mysteries of the pure and true divine feminine. Now, fast forward to this now moment, to this time and space today, 2021 in our human earth. Who cares, right? Like, okay, Celeste, Lemuria, whatever, feminine, whatever, maybe it doesn't even make sense to you, but stay with me. As we step forward into these new realities, as we co-create new ways of living and being and interacting and doing quote unquote business and work and being of service out into the world, we are quite literally creating new realities. Those of us that are awakening and awakened and actively pursuing a conscious evolution of our species, right? A conscious evolution of our consciousness. We are the foundation and the creators of the new earth. Right now, it's happening right now. And this correlates with the rise of the divine feminine. Now, there have been a lot of distortions, as always, when something activates and awakens within a civilization on a global level. Anything that is global on a mass scale has to be watered down and distorted at some level, at least in the consciousness that we have been. So just understanding that, yes, there's been a rise of the divine feminine, but the true mysteries of the divine feminine, I think, are only now being revealed to very specific souls on this planet. And this is the ancient wisdom that was held within Lemuria. So it's so interesting because all is one. The divine feminine mysteries are just part of universal consciousness. That's all. In order to create an integrity with the cosmic universal law, let's say, or with integrity to your divine I am God presence, there must be an understanding and a foundational anchoring of the divine feminine wisdom within you. Whether you use those words and you're consciously aware of it or not, chances are you would be aware of it at some level. So as we take on the responsibility of creating the new earth, we are at the same time being guided by the divine feminine and by the very same templates and blueprints that existed in Lemuria. Now, if you connect to Lemuria, if you feel a connection there, that is really beautiful and powerful to sort of tune into at this time. Why? Because if an essence or a part of you feels connected to or knows that you existed in the time of Lemuria, then you already have the blueprints of what it means to co-creatively and consciously create a new earth reality. Again, whether you consciously realize it or not. And that is huge. And not only is it huge, it is probably one of the most important things that we need at this time as a collective. So you don't even have to think about it. You don't even have to try and recover it and sort of go into this meditative state of like, let me uncover the definition of the divine feminine. Like, none of that. Don't get toggled up and entangled in any of that mumbo jumbo, right? Just know that it's already within your quantum beingness to be able to create the new earth, which is happening now. So a big part of this is just simply sort of dissolving all of the belief systems that are around you and coming back to your truth, coming back to your womb, and coming back to your true desires and true pleasures. Now, this brings me into the next part of this conversation, which is actually anchoring into your divine feminine. And not only anchoring in, but uncovering and allowing that divine feminine wisdom to blossom and move through you and guide you in the creation of the new earth. So whether you feel connected to Lemuria or not, this is a really powerful time to start tuning in to your desires and start to tune in to what it means to create a new reality that is aligned to something more important and greater than who you believe yourself to be, right? We're stepping out of this ego personification and we're saying, what can I create that is going to be in the highest service of the people around me? How can I best be of service to bring in the most light and the most support at this time? That's New Earth consciousness. That is the foundations of the consciousness of Lemuria. How can we constantly create so that we can explore and experiment for the advancement of our conscious evolution? And within that lies the essence and the mysteries of the divine feminine. I find this to be like mind-blowing and it fascinates me. And I hope that it's maybe clicking or connecting some things within you. And so coming back to anchoring into the divine feminine at this time, if you've heard one of my recent podcasts about what is happening with the connection and the sort of relationship between a woman and her cycle, between a woman and pregnancies, there really hasn't been a more important time than now for women to, and you've already heard this from me likely, to really reclaim that connection, whatever that looks like and means to you. And not only that, but also, the men are also involved here because they are needed just as much as the women. So we just need to understand that the mysteries of the divine feminine, whether you're in a man's body, woman's body, or anything in between, it's really this essence that's going to be the foundation of these new earth realities. And if we have no connection as women to our wombs, to our cycles, to the rhythm of nature, to the intelligence of life that lives within our bodies, it's going to be really hard to create a reality or a new earth that is based on an organic sense of satisfaction, because we're talking about a quantum creation here. We're talking about our bodies quite literally being the projection field from which the reality we live in stems from. So if we're not taking care of our bodies, if we're not honoring them as temples, if we're making decisions that are hurting our DNA more than helping us, then it's going to be really hard to tap into and activate that divine feminine essence and mystery within our womb. So I hope that this is making sense for you without me having to put in any kind of judgment or political connotation about anything that's happening at this time, but just really understanding that there is a complete correlation. And I'm really excited about this, because it's like, finally my work is just making sense to me, at least, that the divine feminine and Lemuria and the new earth and this creation of this new life that we're all living and experiencing together, it's all one. And the more, most specifically, women that awaken and men that support this and also awaken for themselves, the more we can be the foundation for these new realities. But we have to be able to tap into the divine feminine within us, to the mysteries, to the wisdom, to the knowledge that's been held so deeply and been so hidden in our reality. It's really, really important, because it's our wombs, it's our cycles, it's the process of cyclical living, and it's the process of creation, right? The process of birthing a child, like that. In essence, the process of birthing, period, anything you choose to birth, that process in itself is extremely sacred. And that process, when it is foundationally established with divine feminine principles and divine feminine mysteries, becomes completely protected, if you will, in a golden stream of light around it, so that it can be birthed and protected and seen through its evolution through time. But when we are birthing children, projects, realities from a place of incongruency, from a place of self-hurt, from a place of distortion, then we will continue to see what we're seeing now on this world stage, which is basically everything that you see on the media, right? So just coming to a close here, really understanding and realizing that, one, if you are a Lemurian soul or you feel connected to Lemuria, you have a divine blueprint, a divine connection in your quantum DNA that is already established for you to connect to the principle of divine feminine energy and mysteries, so that you can create these new earth realities now. And even if you are not connected to Lemuria, it's really, really important to understand that your connection back, your journey back with your own divine feminine energy, is literally the foundation and the pathway to create new earth now, to create the new earth frequency, to create the new earth projects and businesses and children and communities, right? This is the time. We are laying the foundations in this transformational phase for the next few years, which will be life-changing and will basically mark the before and after, will basically mark the division of worlds as we know it. So I hope this has sparked some kind of light, some kind of inspiration, and some kind of coming back to your divine feminine and to the responsibility that we have as a collective at this time to be the birthers of these new realities, of this new earth. All right, my friends. By the way, if you haven't checked out my book, I'm going to put a link below so that you have an opportunity to read my story, my connection with Lemuria. A lot of it was channeled and was very descriptive about what Lemuria was like, how it functioned from my perspective and my experiences. So go ahead and check that out. And as usual, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Sending you a lot of love. Mwah.